sit back or on the edge of your seat because we have Rick Guerrera, Larry Ward, and Greg Roten will be talking about a whole bunch of nonsense with you today. As you
welcome aboard.
Yeah, welcome aboard to our crazy world. And welcome to the Street Scene Power Hour. And we welcome guests Tony Nicholas, Rust Belt Revival, and Geo Roeder from yeah. See, I messed it up again. So
Geo.
Yep, Geo. That's what I said, Rick. Yeah,
That's what they called me in high school.
Yeah, there you go. Legendary flat track racer. We are welcome to have both of these guests with us today. And you know what? Let's go to Larry and Rick real quick. What's coming up for us here? What have you guys been up to? What have you seen down the road, so to speak?
Hey, I was down at the bike show the other day. Tony had at the soap gallery. That was pretty neat, Tony. Huh? Did you get a good crowd? Were you satisfied with it?
There was some unexpected happenings in Youngstown, which we had the street closure was set up months in advance, and so the bikes that showed up could park in the street. And Thursday night that was taken away, and then it was brought back Friday morning, and it was all because of this rally that went on.
Well, if you didn't know, Trump was in town this weekend, and my girlfriend says, you still want to go down and you're not going to get a parking spot. So we drove around, and I didn't want to park in the parking area there because they wanted $20,
Oh, right.
Well, Rick,
I'm
there's
sure
your problem.
it was a challenge, and I'm sure it kept some people away. But once that line, because the line of people just walking in once they opened the doors was 3 blocks, and it was right in front of the building to enter the soap gallery. So it was a logistical challenge. I'll be as polite as I can be.
When I got there, Tony, there was hardly nobody walking around. They were all in already. So
so by like 3:34, the line was gone, and then it was a good event. People came, and it was just a test run. I've been wanting to do a bike show for a long time, and I would always invite bikes to the Rust Belt Revival car show, and 10 would show up, and we would have fun. But so this was a test run to see what would happen. I had access to the gallery, and it went really well. I mean, considering everything, I had guys from Cleveland. I don't even know how they said they got the promo cards that I had made. How they ever got them in Cleveland, I don't know. But that's the beauty of word of mouth. And they rode down on some great bikes, and they had a nice time.
Not only you had bikes, you had artwork all over the walls too. With Keith Sturgeon was in there with a lot of his paintings. Absolutely. He had 3 paintings, and also I ran into. Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
I ran into Guy Shively down there too, or a friend of the show. He was down there.
Absolutely, yeah. Those people, those artists. I've known them for a while, and I was like, "Hey, we have access to this gallery. Any artwork you want to bring, let me know. I'll come get it. However you want to do it. Let's show what you've got, And it was great. Guy brought a few things down. Keith had some great paintings there. Adam Pratt from Youngstown Cycle and Speed brought some things down, and he was a sponsor of the show. Youngstown Cycle and Speed were one of the sponsors of the show. And
was that Adam? He said hi to me. I didn't know who he was. Oh, okay.
Everyone knows Youngstown Cycle, but they don't know him because he's fairly new to it, but super nice guy.
Yeah.
Wants to, he just promotes everything in the scene, and the shop now they handle cars and bikes, it's really,
they do it right. Let's put it that way.
Beer.
What is it with you? Every time we get on the show, it's about a beer.
Right, Tony? Isn't it a brewery now too?
No, not at Youngstown Cycle. You're thinking of Harley Shop.
The Harley Shop. Okay, I'm sorry.
Right, I'm sorry. The brew house. Yeah,
that's the brew house.
Everything's a brewery now.
Right. Something's wrong if you don't have a brewery.
Yeah, really.
But Keith has it cornered. Keith Sturgeon has it cornered at the Biker Brew House. They have his artwork everywhere. That's all you can hope for. as an artist.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keith said he feels disappointed because Tony's been on. This is his second time, and Keith's only been on once now. So,
And I'm going to rub it in forever.
Well, I guess, now we're going to have to, get him on again because, like I said, we have to take a little credit for Keith's career as an artist. You remember he was kind of the starving artist when he came on this show. And now his work's just taken off. So it's all because of us, right, Larry? It's all of us. Yeah.
I don't know about that, but I think
I think it's all of us.
Let's take credit anyway.
Yeah, it's all of us.
Yeah,
he's all over. He's going to Carlisle, I think, in a week or two. There's a car event there, but somebody there knew him and said,
I know.
Come down, and he was questioning whether you wanted to go. I said, "You're crazy, Keith. You go and just
that's a biggie."
There.
Yeah. And, how much exposure he's going to get out of that one.
Oh yeah,
that's
everything that every car or bike thing they have in Carlisle is, top notch.
Sure.
I've got to touch on this real quick. By the time you see or hear this show, we will have been right through the Hollywood Nights show that's on the 25th. Which,
that's coming up this Sunday, huh?
Yeah, it's a few days from when we're recording this show, so we're looking forward to that one.
And
as the weather holds out,
too good right now, so
we'll see what happens.
You're
with that.
pessimist.
That one's in Lordstown at the UAW hall. So, UAW 1112. It looks like.
You guys ready to hear about bikes? Enough cars.
Enough cars. We just started this, Larry. It's six minutes into the show, and you're already complaining already.
It's like, I'm pulling my hair out. It's like,
we've been talking about bikes the whole time. Okay. Anyway, go ahead, Larry. Let's Tony, we're going to get back to you in a second because you already touched on the Rust Belt revival bike part of it, but we also have something else coming up for you on October 9th. We'll get into that. Larry, let's introduce our guest that you got us.
Our mystery guest.
I'd like to welcome Geo Roeder, part of the Roeder Racing family. Harley Davidson's just celebrated their 50th anniversary, and welcome to Armstrong Street Scene Power Hour, Geo.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, one of my best memories of you is when I had Bob Wenzel with me, who was a pretty good motocrosser in his day. And I had him in the infield up at Wasion, and you were doing the exhibition that night with Springsteen. And I'll tell you what, you guys are going down that straightaway. I didn't think you were going to shove it into that bend. And then the hair on the back of my neck started to stand up and like, uh-oh. But you know what? You guys are pros, man. You made it look easy. I couldn't believe it. But I'd like to welcome to the show. Your family just celebrated their 50th anniversary. I know the Penton Owners Group, which I'm part of, held their meeting, and I felt horrible. I missed it. But let's talk about the 50th anniversary, and then we'll go backwards a little bit. You can tell us a little bit about your memories of growing up with Big George and racing. Of course, he raced at Bonneville, set the record at that time.
Yeah.
So
65. In 1965, 176 mile an hour with a CR 250 Sprint.
Yeah, how did you do that out of 250? How do you get that much horsepower?
It's crazy.
How much do you get? How can you get that much speed out of one of them?
Yeah, how can you get that much speed? 177 miles an hour on a 250 cc Harley.
Right.
Yikes.
So, had to split the wind there, and Dad said it had a real tall gear on it, and they had outriggers on it, and they took he had to get up to 30, 40 mile an hour before he could put the outriggers up so he wouldn't fall over, get the speed up. And then once he got going, he was all right. So, but yeah.
177 miles an hour.
Now, Gio,
wow.
You think about it, you just celebrated 50 years. When you look back look at the motorcycle business and the way the operation is now, Roeder Racing Limited, and you look at over the 50 years, how has things changed for you and your family? Not only, you've been longtime Harley Davidson disciples. How are things changed from when you were coming up with Big George and working your way up and then racing all the time, and to where it is nowadays? Give us some behind the scenes kind of thing.
Well, you know, when mom and dad started in 72, and they were Harley dealers, and mom said, you know, dad thought that if they could sell 6, 8, maybe 10 bikes a year, that would be good, you know.
Oh, geez.
And then, you know, just work on them and make a living doing it that way. And well, when they built a little shop to start in, and didn't take them very long to figure out they were too small. Their building was too small, so they expanded into the barn that was next door. And of course, then when early 90s, Harley Davidson really took off, and my brother and his wife took over the business, and they really expanded. And in 2003, they moved to Sandusky, built a dealership in Sandusky. You know, Harley Davidson told them they had to move next to the freeway. Wasn't enough traffic out here on 20, which is hard to believe. And then everything happened, you know, in, well, I don't know, 2008, or when the Great Recession happened, and we lost our Harley franchise, but we're still a motorcycle dealer, and work on bikes, and been involved in it. And things have went, you know, seen a lot from the boom bust, but we're doing all right now.
Absolutely. Now, let's take us back to the beginning with the Roeder family and Big George, and how all that began. You know, you bought the dealership, and you're building a dealership. So walk us through what it was like in the early days with your dad, and growing up racing, and just being around Harley Davidsons and racing.
I was 5 years old when they started the business in 72, but I always rode many bikes around here. Dad always had us on Harley Davidson many bikes, and still a little jump in the backyard next to the original shop that Dad built us. And of course, and Dad was a farmer. He farmed and ran the bike shop and took us all racing on the weekends, you know. So he was a very busy person. When Dad rode for the factory, and when he retired, he decided he wanted to start a bike shop. And of course, he knew some guys up there at the factory, and he was able to get a franchise. And of course, then my older brother Will, he took over and kind of started running things. And Dad and we did a lot of motorcycle racing though through all that. And Dad, I think Dad liked racing motorcycles about more than anything, you know, going.
Yep. Well, hold that thought. So,
What happened?
Lost him. Is he still there? Geo?
Can you hear me?
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
A little glitch there. Welcome to the internet.
Yeah, I say, come hell or high water, we were going racing on the weekends, you know.
Yeah.
And man, I had a really great, you know, upbringing, because I spent my life at the races, at the racetrack, you know, and made most of my friends at the racetrack, and I still, you know, involved. I can't imagine having a better upbringing than growing up at the races, you know, and I think it's still the same. It's such a family event, you know. I miss it. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm very thankful that my mom and dad made the sacrifice taking us racing, you know. So
sounds like you have a lot of history there. That's, you know, it's something to be very proud of. Go ahead, Larry.
Yep.
Well, if you look at the way Harley Davidson is, you know, I'm pretty good friends with Bill Baumberger down at Newcastle Harley Davidson. And of course, he's on 422, but I wouldn't call that the mainstream capital. It's much like 20 up where you're at. And yeah, he's been able to resist you got to have a big shop, and it's got to be on I-80 somewhere on the freeway or whatever. But I don't know how long that would last. But I think you and Bill are what Harley Davidson was all about in the beginning, where, you know, you could walk into the shop. You're not expected to buy something. You could just sit around and bullshit for a while if you wanted to, and you could talk to people. You could make friends. You know, your dealership was really your friend. I can't really think of anybody that I run with now that would say, maybe Warren Harley, and certainly down at Newcastle they would. But you look at the legions of other riders I run with, and I can't imagine them saying, "Oh man, that guy's my buddy," and "Oh boy, I can't wait to just go there and hang out." They just isn't like that anymore. And when I was growing up, much like you, it was like that. You'd go there and you'd hang out and you'd learn, especially when you're younger. You learn to keep your mouth shut and try and pick up on a lot of things the other guys were laying down in that. But you look over the 50 years, the motorcycling business, even though we like to think some things of it remain constant, but I think there's a lot of things that have changed. And when I look at your dealership, it's respect, riding. You're going to get the bike repaired at a fair price the first time. You won't have to bring it back for the repair again. There's a lot of things that you guys embody that Big George said this is the way our family's going to do business. Tell us a little bit about how you guys do business now and some of the challenges you face, because you're not a factory, or I should say a Harley Davidson dealership per se. You sell Harley parts, you fix Harley bikes, you're legends in Harley Davidson. But as far as having the official stamp, that's kind of went by the wayside after the Sandusky thing. So what's it like, with your shop now and the challenges that you guys face?
Well, like I say, we're mainly a Harley cycle shop. That's pretty much all we work on. And yeah, it's hard getting parts. Getting parts is probably the biggest obstacle right now. I think Harley Davidson's changing their policy on that, but for a long time, they don't want me selling Harley parts. They don't want to sell me Harley parts to put on Harley bikes, which don't make no sense to me. And I've been lucky to be able to get parts. It's been a real obstacle this whole time here. And because Harley does, there are certain parts you're putting on a motorcycle, you want to use Harley parts, and we try
Sure.
we try to use the best part we can get for that job. And a lot of the time it's an OEM part. So Harley's made that hard, but we've been fortunate.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been able to source parts when we need them and stuff. And I've been told that going to start changing, that Harley Davidson might be a little more friendly to us. I've yet to find that out. I hope that is correct. And
Well, Geo, I can tell you that when I was working on my 72 XL-CH, I needed, and I had a kick and electric start conversion on it, and I needed to get a starter button. So I bought one from the Harley shop. And I get home, and I'm thinking it's new old stock, and guess what it says on the bag?
Made in China.
Made in China.
yeah.
Made in China. And I was like, here I'm replacing a USA part,
Right.
and so that happens. And I'm going to tell you another thing. One of the guys that used to do some mail order business, Ronnie's Harley Davidson, they really hammered those guys. I don't think they're allowed to sell now. I could go look up a part, because you know how primary they are on their parts. You got to have their parts catalog. You look up the part and then you go to the dealership. Well, it would be kind of nice just to look up the part and then go on Ronnie's website and then just get the part. Well, I think they even clamped down on that. And from what I've heard, that
Correct.
That not allowed to do that.
So I think they want to get rid of people like me, basically, and they want everybody to go to the dealer and get their bike repaired or worked on or buy parts there. But and I'm not the only one that's faced with this. There's everybody in the whole country. Bike shops like me have the same situation, and we're all making do. And like I said, I've been able to get the parts that I need. I've been able to get them, and I thank the Lord for that, and the person that's supplying them to me. And like I said, and I hope I've heard that that's going to start changing back to the way it was. I hope that is right.
Let's talk a little bit about your racing career briefly. Like I said, when I watched you and Springsteen out at Wasion, I mean, I was like in awe. It was just like being a little kid, watching you guys. And that takes a certain skill set to not have a front brake and a little steel shoe on your left foot and to go blasting 100 miles an hour and then try and dump it into into the first turn. So as you were growing up in that, can you pick some moments that during your racing career that you think and you smile, and as you look back on and say, boy, you know what, I really did that right.
Oh yeah, there was a few times there. I won the national up there at I-96 in Michigan. I won Del Mar twice. I won Pomona. I won Dayton. That was the old time newsies. It wasn't a national, but it paid a lot of money. So it was the biggest paying non-national event, and I won that 13 times. So, that was pretty a nice accomplishment for me. But yeah, you talking about me and Springer going out at it makes my hair stand up on my head, because I really enjoy Wasion and tracks like that.
Right.
When you get on the throttle, you got to use the throttle to steer, get around the corner, and grab a whole handful of throttle and go. So I do miss that a little bit. I'm 54 years old now, so I ain't as quite as sharp as I used to be, I guess. But I do look forward to riding once or twice a year and doing that. It's just, I can't explain it. The feeling I get when I'm out there, you just feel so alive. The adrenaline's pumping again and everything. I get real, I miss it a little bit.
Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, Larry, Geo, we're going to get back to you in a minute. Stick around for a little bit here, because we're going to get back to your career in a second. We want to hit on Tony here, and for the Rust Belt revival.
Rust Belt revival.
Before you go further with that, I have to say, this is just because flat track motorcycle racing. I'll tell you my connection, which is very minuscule. But when I was 6 years old, we moved to Indianapolis, Indiana from Northeast Ohio. My dad's job took him there. And my dad was into cars. He was in the Roadhounds Car Club and all that. We would go to Terre Haute and all these other places and watch non-wing sprint cars. But the first race I was ever at of anything racing was at the Indiana State Fairgrounds, and it was the mile flat track motorcycle race.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. And my dad had, he was in the bottling industry. We were in the infield, and we were literally a few feet from the guardrail. When they first came by, I was only 6 or 7. I was probably scared shitless, to say the least. But I was hooked. I mean, the whole pack was a second apart, altogether. Yeah. And it was just nothing it blew my whole world wide open. And I was hooked, you know what I mean? And we went everywhere we could go to see them run and do that. And that was my introduction. And then we went to see non-wing sprint cars and midgets, and went to Indianapolis and my dad, we'd go watch practice and qualifying. Mm-hmm. And the race was just like an after effect but that flat track racing to me still is, you have to have some big cojones.
Say that same thing.
Mm-hmm. to control that thing like that. And like a sprint car, that's what I learned how to photograph at Sharon Speedway. Photographing Dave Blaney when he started driving.
Yep. I was out there as well.
To drive it with the accelerator, to drive it with the throttle, that's what he was talking about a minute ago. And that's to me, that's art. And I've been working in the arts forever, and that's an art.
Yeah. Tony, you're into the arts and into photography also, right?
Yeah, it's just been a thing I've done for forever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been photographing and working in the arts and teaching it a little bit and all of that. But the motivation behind all of it was racing of anything, cars, motorcycles. And that's what spawned the bike show. I don't want to have just a car show. Bikes were my first real introduction, and let's do that right. And I was happy with how it all turned out.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony, what is Blast Furnace Designs, BFD?
That was just, I was putting, I had these designs I was making from photographs of mine, and I was making designs to put on T-shirts. It was just another, a product for me to sell at art shows. And it was like this I made this Rust Belt Phoenix, I called it, because I was like, trying to support the city and make the Rust Belt into a positive. A lot of people like to feed it into a negative thing. And that's, where it started. And now if you go to West Side Bowl on the west side of Youngstown, you can see one hanging on the side of the building that's 10 feet tall. And it was just a design. I needed a name for this body of work, and that's where blast furnace. I grew up photographing the blast furnaces before they disappeared in the mid '90s, before they blew them all up.
Yeah,
they blasted them.
They did.
I just like the way it sounded to say it. Blast furnace. I mean, there's nothing.
Hey Tony, in 2020, you started what? Point of Origins. What's that?
That's just the same thing. That's another. Well, it was like I saw the world changing more than I had ever seen it or thought it would in my life.
Yeah, sure.
And I wanted to do something that was positive. And the point of origin came from the railroad. Like, that's where you start. That's your point of origin. And where I come from. And so I started doing these designs with my photos and altering them and making them into simple things to put on shirts. And it was all like with a positive quote, like, I can't even think of them, like, it's all about working with your hands. And like the picture might be a guy as a blacksmith hammering steel. And it was the power of, working with your hands and being positive and the result of actually doing the work is what changes things. It's not having a fancy language and saying things. It's more about working with your hands and the people who build things and actually make things. I had a friend who was an artist and he was a blacksmith, and him and I used to go to his shop. He helped me make my kitchen table and different pieces of furniture. And we would have that. He was a little older than me. He was in his 60s, almost 70. And we would have them conversations. Like, what happens when all these people go away who know how to make things? And that's where that all spawned, is like, we need those guys in the trades. And that's kind of where Point of Origin started. It was like to put an image of a roofer doing roofing on a T-shirt and say, these are the things that keep our country together. These kind of people, that's what Point of Origin was about. It was to show it in a positive light, because I was sick of seeing all the hatred and division that we've been going through.
Yeah.
My tiny way of changing it.
Is there a place we can see all your artwork?
You can see it on my Facebook page, which is just, I hate to even say that. And but that's just the way of the world. I had a teacher tell me in graduate school, say, if you don't stay up with the technology, it's going to leave you in the dust. And so I try to stay up with it. And on Instagram, there's a whole Point of Origin page by itself that you'll see more of the shirts on there. But I'm working on a site, because now that the Rust Belt Revival has become a thing, that's so, like, people starting to ask me for shirts and stuff year round.
You got the coolest poster around, that. I love those posters you got.
That's my favorite part. Like, to this morning, I'm working on finishing the shirt design of this year's show. I bounce it off of a few guys, and they're all car guys. I'm like, what do you think of this? And
I was there last year, and you ran out of shirts real soon. So you were too quick.
Every year I order more, and every year we run out. So that's where
you better save me one extra large, and I'll pay for it.
Well, save a couple. Okay. Jeez, Rick.
Sorry.
How selfish. I have a friend who's a web designer, because that's not what I do, and she's trying to help me create like a store that has all that. And now we have bike stuff. So like, I have shirts from the bike show left, that those are coming with me to the car show. And whoever wants it, come and get it.
Exactly. Go ahead.
Did Larry Rabbit Smith show up with any of his photos from?
No, he didn't. And I know Rabbit too. And it was at the same location where he had a show a few years ago. And I know it didn't go quite to his expectations. And I have the utmost respect for Rabbit. I have his book. He signed it for me. He's just I love talking to him. He's a walking historical. Yeah, he's the best. But he didn't come, and I didn't think he would, because I knew he had a bad taste in his mouth the last time he had a show at the same place. But at the same time, like if I see him, I want him to have a shirt from this show because of his show, I knew motorcycles would fit in the door at the soap gallery. And I'm like, I can at least get number one there and get one show under our belt, meet some people, and make connections. I was at the location today for where we do the car show, already talking about the next bike show for next year.
Yeah.
Doing it there with more space. We can bring more bikes and
no politicians coming in or anything like that. So
even if they we have enough space. They won't interfere. Yeah, it was just,
I think it kind of helped. I think it kind of helped your wife though, selling some stuff down
my
there,
sister.
right?
Yeah, my sister did a killing because the line there. She had a captive audience. They were celebrating her food.
She was selling goodies there, you know.
Yeah, there you go. That's perfect.
Well, Marianne's Fine Foods. She did well because of that line of people. But that's like. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. I was interrupting as usual.
That's all right. I ramble. It's just I was excited about the whole show, and I look forward to it. I can't thank Jim Icazilli from MotoZilli because he went above and beyond whatever I expected, and he had connections to bikes. He got a hold of Neil Perry, and he brought two, rare a Harley and an Indian that probably don't see the light of day much. Yeah. And to me, those were the gems of the show. Those two bikes he brought. There was
a couple of nice ones there, yeah.
Right. Yeah, Jim brought, I don't know if you guys know or knew, because he's not with us anymore, Norm Anderson.
Sure.
Who was a car guy, motorcycle guy, just a gem of a person. He had a BSA flat tracker restored, like only Norm could have it done. And he told me, he said, I might be able to bring it because he has it. This guy, Jim at the Triumph dealership, has that bike and he has a couple of Norm's bikes. And he brought that BSA to the show. And I was just thrilled that a piece of Norm was there, because I photographed all of Norm's bikes for him when he knew he was sick and these bikes were going to go somewhere. And he was planning that all out. And I helped him out. And I just love the guy to death. And I'm glad a piece of him was there. Yeah, it was very sad. I knew his wife and I still talked to her. And last year at the revival, she had Snyder bring one of his cars down, one of Norm's cars. And it was just, it's all about that passion and keeping them kind of guys, in everyone's mind.
Well, a little footnote here. Jim Iacozzelli, who's the owner of the MotoZilli, which is Yamaha, Triumph, and Royal Enfield. Jim at one time was a noted flat track racer until he got hurt pretty bad out at the Trumbull County Fairgrounds, along with Tommy Duma, who is Tom Duma Fine Jewelry. Tom is still active in the motorcycling community in terms of he does the watches for the guys that win the championship, stuff like that for the AMA. But yeah, Jim's got his own little museum down in the cellar, and it's really pretty cool. So, but he's a great guy. He helped out at the Packard show for the Packard Museum, the motorcycle exhibit that takes place there from January through May. He's a great guy. I probably bought 5 bikes off of him, 2 ATVs, and you name it. And my new Royal Enfield Himalayan.
Hey, Tony.
I love those. I was there today looking at the Triumph adventure bikes. That's my next thing, man. I gotta have one. But Jim was beyond. The first time I went, I'd heard about his basement museum, and I went there and I was just like, and then I recognized Norm's bikes, and he's like, yeah, and then it's a small world. He's like, I know Norm, and I was, blah blah blah, and we went on, but Jim was beyond helpful. I mean, he donated 8 brand new Bell helmets. Wow. And I had artists paint them. I gave them to 8 different artists and they painted them up and we auctioned them off and raised the money for the Purple Cat in Youngstown is a facility that helps adults with disabilities.
Did you sell all the artwork and the helmets?
What's that?
Did you sell all the artwork and the helmets?
The artwork we sold I sold a couple pieces. I don't know if nobody else did, but tell Keith that.
Okay.
But the helmets I just gave today, I delivered 3 of them. And the other ones that like the auction did, the bidding didn't go up real high, and I want to keep it going because I want to get as much money as I can to Purple Cat. So Youngstown Cycle and Speed is having their event on October 1st. So we're going to bring the remaining helmets there and just keep it going and see, because they're done by Atomic Bob, Bob McElroy, and Keith has a helmet in there, and who else is left? Jay Bird, Jeremy Lockard, he hit the helmet he painted, and I just want, I want to see if we can get more money out of those, and I want to be able to hand Purple Cat a big fat check.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Adam Pratt is no stranger to artwork and designs.
Absolutely.
And
He's got one of the
pinstriping
helmets.
stuff.
Right.
Oh,
Yep.
cool.
He did one of the helmets too. Yeah, he was all excited, and he thought he kind of talked initially like he wasn't worthy. I'm like, no, I'm bringing you helmets. You do it.
Adam is a very humble person.
Yeah.
He knows his stuff. He's, if you don't know Adam Pratt, he is one of the co-owners of Youngstown Cycles and Speed down in Youngstown. And, when they started Youngstown Cycle and Speed, they did it right from the beginning. And Adam he's a very humble person. He really knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So,
yes, he does. And he's a talented guy as far as he teaches an art class in painting at the Columbiana Performing Arts Center.
Yeah.
To kids, he's got so many talents. It's not even, and he's just a super guy to be around,
And his daughter is taking right up where I've seen some of the stuff, some pinstriping, and she's young. And he said she's got the best gift. She's got a steady hand.
yeah.
I was there a month or two before the show. It was actually, I think it might have been the day I delivered the helmets to him. Bob McElroy was there at Youngstown Cycle Speed. I walk in, all three of us are standing there, and all three of us had our daughters with us. We were all like, me and my daughter were running around doing that and taking some photos. Bob was with his daughter, and they were, and Adam's daughter was there painting as we stood there.
Wow.
And it was just, and I took some photos of them, and them guys, they're so busy, they didn't even realize it till I went right to Facebook and said, look at this. This is what it's all about is, look at this moment here. These three guys with their daughters, those are the moments that make it, for me.
Hey, let's hold on. We got information coming up about the Rust Belt Revival. Geo, I've got a question for you, and I am probably the least knowledgeable on motorcycles of any person in the world. I'm learning a lot from Larry and even Rick a little bit, somewhat, a little bit. On flat track racing, how has, looking back at the safety measures now, how lax were they before? What has changed since you started doing?
Great question.
Yeah. How has that changed?
They have a lot of air fences now. They put up the air fence around the outside. They have air suits, I guess, that inflate.
Oh, okay.
Crash. The only problem with them is they're pretty expensive. If yours deploys, you got to have a backup. So you got to have two suits just in case you crash in practice or you're a qualifying race.
You can't use it again. It's a one-shot deal.
Right. It needs to be repacked like a parachute.
Like an airbag or something.
Yeah. So, and I guess you can't do it today. You got to send it somewhere and they do it for you. So.
Oh, okay. I see.
And I'm told them suits are.
Okay.
You still with us, Geo?
Yeah, he cut out just a little bit here.
Leaned on a button.
There you go. I think I heard him. He's coming back here.
Geo, you back?
Am I here?
Yep, there you go.
There you go.
Okay.
Go ahead. Bud.
No, but yeah, that has added safety though, to the sport. But other than that, they're still riding the same. Everybody's, they're on Indians and Yamahas and XG Harley Davidsons. Don't run the XR like we all used to run quite as bit, but they're other than that, they're still going as fast as they can, turning left and grabbing a whole handful of throttle. So
yeah,
just a quick thought, if I could jump in. If you saw the Packard Museum, Neil Perry had an XG 750 that was factory bike, never raced. And the thing that was disappointing is first of all, when you look at the Indian platform, the FTR, that's 1100 D-stroke down to a 750. I mean, that is a modern engine. When you look at the old XR 750, it isn't. So it wasn't competitive anymore. So Harley come out with a new bike, the XR G, 500, and then a 750 model.
Right.
But it's not an engine that was readily available to hop up like the Scout or the Indian motor would be. When Harley, it took them 4 years to finally start to get that thing on the podium, and then they shut it down last year.
Right. They don't make
Like I said, you got to love the internet there for that one. Geo will be back in just a second.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear
There
me?
we go.
There
We got to get back here.
They're changing the rules, and it sounds like the XG is going to be competitive next year with the way they're changing the rules, because the XG runs really well in production twins class, and they're talking like they're going to make that the premier class, and it's the KTM does real well, the Harley XG does real well in that, along with the Yamahas. And the Kawasaki, they think that'll do real well in there because it did well before. So it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to be out there on XG Harley Davidsons that you can't buy anymore, you know.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
Just like the XR, you know. So.
Yeah, what's funny, what's kind of sad though, is that flat track racing, and I mean, when the 650, 750 Triumphs were going and, you know, old number 9 and stuff like that, you know, and the XR 750s, that to me was flat track racing at its finest. Now I watch it, but I don't get as much thrill out of watching the Japanese bikes, you know?
Right. I mean, I don't know. I'm partial to the XR 750.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like, you know, how refined have they become, you know, considering you're looking back, even Larry, you're coming back years ago, you know, flat track racing. And I'm sure they've become, the bikes that you can get now are much more refined in way of handling and a way of gripping, the, you know, tires and suspension and all that. How has that changed a little bit as well?
Well, I can't remember who I was talking to said, now, instead of the mechanic and the rider talking to one another after they come off the track, the rider comes off the track from practice or the heat race, the mechanic gets on the laptop and starts looking at, you know, all kinds of data on the laptop, and they're kind of losing that, you know, the rider input. They're, you know, because when I used to come in off the track, it'd be like, the gearing feels good, or maybe we need a tooth, the suspension is doing this, or it feels like, you know, I'm pushing the front end, but it sounds like they get on the laptop to get all this information now, and it's kind of losing something.
It doesn't matter. You know, you could tune a car, you can tune a suspension, you can tune a bike or anything. It all depends on the hands of the driver or the rider of how that car or bike is going to be handled. You can't change that no matter what you do. And you've got to talk about the person that's actually handling the machine.
Right. When they got traction control now, so they can adjust that. And, you know, it's kind of, you know, taking some of the.
It's literally taking the art of driving or riding out is what it's doing. And, you know, you see that all the time. People rely more on all the technology to cover up for bad riding or bad driving.
Right. But you still got your best. I'm sorry. I went to, you know, I go to a couple of nationals a year, and the guys that are, the cream rises to the top. Even, you know, Jared Meese, Briar Bauman, Bronson Bauman, I'm forgetting names now, but they're Brandon Robinson, you know, them guys, man, you watch them go around and they know how to ride a motorcycle, you know. And so technology maybe just enhances and helps them do better.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys really put on a show, you know, and I really enjoy watching them guys go around because I think, man, I used to be able to maybe ride a bike that good too. You know?
How about Shayna Texter?
Now she does well. She's, in my opinion, she's probably the best lady. I don't want to ruffle any feathers to race. I mean, she, especially on the 450s, she elbow to elbow with the guys out.
Right.
Yeah. Tony, do you have a question?
Well, I was just listening to that, and it's, you know, and I'm a fan of Formula One car racing. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
It's all about telemetry and sensors and getting all this electronic feedback, and yet it still comes down to the seat of the pants. Like if the driver, the rider, it comes down to them saying the technology can tell you what it's doing, but somebody has to grab those handlebars and make it go. And I don't think any amount of computing will ever change that, because that's what I appreciate. Like, you can have 100, some of them Formula One teams have budgets bigger than some countries.
Yeah.
But if the driver is slow,
Really?
the car is slow. They can make the car however you want to say it's perfectly set up. But if the guy can't drive it,
no,
it's him. He's slow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's people out there who just have that gift. And that's what I don't think any technology can ever replace somebody that has to get in and drive it and ride it and make it do what they're saying it's capable of doing.
Geo, I think you're absolutely right. I think it helps. I think it'll help the rider. I think it'll help the driver. You know, it might cover up a couple mistakes that the driver or rider does make, which is good, and it helps that. But yeah, you've got to have that skill. You got to have that mindset when you go. You know, you're running it. How fast? You know.
Yeah, you're still going down You still got to get through the corner. There's a guy.
Darn, lost him again.
Yep. Wait a minute. We got that 8-second delay, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. What did he say? You pushed the button, Greg?
Yeah. Geo.
There
you go. Now you're back.
There we go.
Dallas Daniels I remember watching him at Lima. He reminds me of like Jay Springsteen. It's effortless to him to go around the racetrack, you know, and I envy guys like that because I used to have to try so hard, you know. You know, I was always breaking a sweat, you know, and guys like Springsteen, you know, Chris Carr, it's effortless to them. You know, they come off the racetrack and they're not even hardly breathing, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and my guts are hanging out. So
you know, you speak about Chris Carr, and you know, a lot of you guys are multi-talented where, okay, I'm on a flat track. You look at Springsteen, he can get on number 9 and road race, and probably road race with the best of them. But you look at Chris Carr, and I don't know if he's still the current land speed record holder in the Bub Streamliner. I remember I covered that. It's more than a couple years ago now, but I can't tell you if he's still the record holder. I haven't really looked it up, but look at the talented all these guys are, especially and yourself as well, Geo.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I was decent, but
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
but you know where you stand, and them guys, like I say, I do envy them. I did envy them because they, as good as I did, they were a little bit better. I mean, I beat them at times, but you know, it's just. I can appreciate it, you know, because I've been out there with them. What them guys are doing, because they make it look easy, and it's really actually pretty hard to do, you know. And you find that in any sport, you know, the great ones make it look easy, and
you know what?
Different.
And there's one other thing that impresses me about all of you guys, and you included. Is that, you know, as good as you are, how humble you are. You know, I've met my friend Bob Wenzel's son is a professional racer for Reju, which is a Spanish motorcycle. He does hard enduro, which is a nuts kind of crazy thing. If you want to get hurt, get into that sport. But you know what? Everybody's calm. I don't really see guys, you don't come off the field throwing the helmets and that. You don't come off the track and kicking the bike and taking a swing at somebody. I mean, maybe once in a great while if you think somebody really wronged you. And I don't even know if these kids even do that kind of stuff anymore, where you just walk over in the pits and say, hey, F you, man. We're getting into it right now because you cut you. But the humbleness of all of you guys. And like, it's just like you said, hey, they were a little bit better at times. You know, it's not something where you lie awake at night, you do your best, and then you have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, Geo, quick question here. Your dad, he was a heck of a racer, huh? How many national championships did he win?
He won 8 nationals. He finished second in the Grand National point standings twice. In 63, he lost by 1 point to Dick Mann. And in 67, he lost out to Gary Nixon. I don't know. It came down to the last race, and Nixon beat him. But so my dad was at the top, you know. My dad was very talented. And that's one thing, like, you know, being around him all the time, and I had the opportunity to be around a lot of great motorcycle racers. Now I understand it. Now I appreciate it. But I was a kid then. I didn't, you know.
Sure.
Right.
He won his first national championship, back in 63, wasn't it?
Yeah, 1963, won the Springfield Mile, you know, the biggest race you could win in flat track racing. And
was there any money involved back then?
Yeah, they made good money. Dad, you know, of course, you know, gasoline was what, 20 cents a gallon?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Larry, maybe you could tell us how much gas was back then.
I'll tell you what, I can remember paying 25 or 27 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can have a car with a 413 Hemi and a Chrysler product, and you didn't care, you know.
I had to get on Larry's case because, you know, I wasn't even born then. So
I bypassed that. I just went right past that.
Dude, you don't get my jokes.
I'm glad he's older than me.
Buy a KR factory
Not
race.
by much.
What's that?
You could buy a KR factory race bike for $1,200.
Jeez.
Wow. That's a flathead, a KR.
Right.
Gio, I got one last question for you. Out of all the bikes you've ridden, you've owned, you've seen, what is the one you want?
What do I want?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
There you go. I knew I could stump you.
I wouldn't mind riding one of those Indians, the FTRs that they're all riding now. I'm
Tony didn't like that one. Huh?
I've kind of gotten into old bikes. I got an old knucklehead, and I actually got 2 old knuckleheads. I would like to have an Indian 4. I think them things are cool. They sound real cool when they start them up, and I just, you know, I would like to have one of those.
Okay. See, that was perfect timing when we cut out. So.
Quit hitting that delay.
Yeah, I can't have all. Yeah. You don't get the right answer. That's what happens. You get the button.
That's crazy that cuts out. That is a delay of some sort.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You know that-
did you
George,
get what you wanted, or I got to say it again?
No, we got what you wanted. So what you wanted to ride. You know, we got a few minutes left. I want to get back to Tony very quickly about October 9th. Tell us what's coming up October 9th.
The 9th Rust Belt Revival Hot Rod Show, which blows my mind that it's number 9.
Yeah.
Number 9.
And it's, I think last year it almost doubled in size from 2019 was the last time we.
That was a good turnout last year. I was down there.
Yeah, it was.
Weather was good.
Weather was good.
Let me put this into perspective. It doesn't shock me that it doubled in size because Rick and I featured Rust Belt Revival. It's been 3 years now. It's been a long time. We're
going to do it again.
Yes, we are. We're going to be there October 9th, but it still doesn't surprise me because to this day, when we walked into that show, I've never seen so many customs, so many hot rods, and so many just custom rides down there. I still haven't seen that many at any one show, except Rust Belt Revival. And it still sticks in my mind.
I like to call it the coolest show in town. It is really cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, if you want to see some real craftsmanship on these cars coming in, that's the place to go on October 9th is the Rust Belt Revival. You won't see anything else. There's cars that I haven't seen again since then. And I don't know where they're coming from.
I got messages from guys who came last year from Western New York, from all over Ohio and Pennsylvania. It just blows my mind. And it's a real credit to the friends I made in 2011, 2012. I would go to the Ox Roast car show at the Trumbull County.
Oh, that was a great one. That was a great one. Remember we did that the last year?
And I would just go there to take pictures. I would go, because you would see a variety, and I would take pictures.
Yeah.
Somebody pulled me aside and said, take a picture of this 49 Ford shoebox, the interior. And that was a friend. Now he's like my brother, Shane Felger, 49 Ford.
You featured that one year, didn't you?
What's that?
Didn't you feature that one year?
Yeah, we did a wrap around it. Remember with the steel industry imagery?
Yeah. He was out at our show. We actually interviewed him one year with that wrap on the car.
Yeah.
It was impressive.
Yeah.
It's fun to do. I had never done anything like that. But that all, to think that now, like the B&O, we kind of outgrew it. And that was never our intention, was to make it this monstrosity of a show. But to give the credit to them guys, to Shane Felger and Tim Leake and Jeff Gilger, all these guys who were some of the Roadhound members, they, like the first couple of years, that show was literally invitation only.
Yeah,
they would
remember that
summer and pick cars and friends they knew, and that's who would show up. And then anyone who came after the fact, good time, let's have fun. It was all about that artistry and passion for hot rodding, and it's just grown off of that, and that's I think that really helps make it a different kind of car show.
So that's October the 9th, 2022 from 11 to 4 p.m. on Boardman Street in Youngstown, Ohio. Just look up Penguin Brewing and it's right next to it.
Okay, Rick.
Gotta get the beer in there.
Absolutely. There's gonna be like we've just started formulating like an after party after the car show at Penguin City Beer.
Oh, good.
They're on board. We might even have, I'll let the cat out of the bag. We might have a couple cars inside Penguin City.
Cool.
The day of the show. Yeah. Because they're friends of mine. They're open to it. But I want to invite everybody to, when you leave the show or whatever, go there. It's right across the yard, basically.
It's right there. Yep.
So Tony said all the cars are going to be in Penguin City Beer. Now we got to wrap the show up. No, I'm kidding.
That's a big place.
I told her, I said, any overflow cars, if we fill up everything where we're intending, I said, they may be in your parking lot. I don't know. You never know what's going to happen.
I want to very quickly, I want to get to back to Geo real quick. We got about 2 minutes. Geo, future for you. What do you got planned?
In the future?
Yep. I knew it. I stumped him again.
He must not have a future.
I just probably keep working on motorcycles. I'm enjoying it. This lifestyle, it fits me. I like being around motorcycles. I like motorcycle people. So yeah, more of the same.
There you go. Tony, what's coming up for the Rust Belt Revival? Any changes this year?
A little more food vendors.
Rick, a little more. Hey, Rick, a little more beer.
Beer?
Right.
Beer?
You allowed to sell beer there?
We did it like through donations, and that's probably how we'll do it again with Penguin City helping out. And David Boyd and the Ramrods will be playing music with Mule Face Brothers, who've done the show several times.
You have bands and everything, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Before I say goodbye, I want to know, Geo, we've never met, but I want to come and photograph you. That's what I do. This guy needs to be,
Right.
That to me, he's something
Yeah.
special. You know,
Yeah, we couldn't get his
I wanna
video
go to
up
his
today.
shop where
so-
he's working and getting his hands dirty, and
Yeah.
you know, and just that's what I love. That shit.
Come on over.
Right on.
Yeah, we
I
couldn't
will.
get his video up today, so he's
Yeah.
on the
I'll
street.
get it
man.
working next time.
Cool.
Well, you know, and for we're going to wrap it up here again. October 9th, Rust Belt Revival on Boardman Street in Youngstown.
Looking
Come
forward
out.
to it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
come
check it
out.
out.
Come out and see the incredible custom rides. Geo, thank you for joining us and giving us your history on flat track racing and the incredible history of your father. We love to actually record that and hear that. Thank you, Tony. For Rick Guerrera, Larry Ward, my name is Greg Roten, and this has been Street Scene Power Hour. And Larry, I'll let you say it.
You really want me to say it? We'll see you down the road.
Down the road.
Down the road.